Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. The symbolism in these passages is quite challenging, so it's not surprising that there are several different interpretations. Some believe that the 7 heads and 10 horns denote actual countries or world organizations, but the problem with this interpretation is identifying the correct ones. It's important to note that the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns connects with the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, in Daniel chapter 2. But we must keep in mind that the natural is first, followed by the spiritual. For me, personally, I believe that the symbols transcend literal countries or organizations and address the inward more than the outward. After all, isn't that where the real battle lies? In part 3, I propose that the beast typifies the carnal nature, while the sea denotes the great sea of humanity out of which this nature arises. An important point I have not yet made regarding the 7 heads is this. When we view the 7 things God hates in Proverbs 6:16, we are not looking at 7 different spirits, but rather the 7-fold characteristics of the one haughty spirit of Proverbs 16:18. This same perspective is seen in the 7 spirits of God in Isaiah chapter 11 and Revelation 1:4. There are not 7 different spirits of God, but 7 characteristics of the one Spirit of the Lord. Because 7 is the number of fruit or manifestation, then the 7 heads denote the manifestation of the beast or carnal nature. Hence the reason that the 7 things God hates fit hand in glove with this understanding. The beast is the carnal nature. The heads reflect the carnal mind that results from this nature. 7 also denotes the end of the sowing and reaping cycle, which equates to fullness, meaning filled to the full. A perfect example of this is found in the following. But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Later in this series, we will take another look at these passages, but let me return to the 7 heads and 10 horns of the beast. When we go to Revelation chapter 17, we find more information about the 7 heads and 10 horns. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. First, we're told, the 7 heads are 7 mountains, and they are also 7 kings. Mountains typify kingdoms or dominions, while kings denote those who have dominion or rule over these kingdoms. This agrees with Genesis 1:26, where the Lord declared, "Let them have dominion." 7 kings, 5 of whom are fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. Might this agree with the following? Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot, who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication." Why are the kings in Revelation 17 fallen? Might they be the kings of the earth in these passages? And would it be because they have committed fornication with the great harlot, Babylon, the mother of harlots? And I emphasize, These are not literal kings, but rather indicative of principalities and powers, and the rulers of the darkness of this age, the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. They are the sevenfold characteristics of the carnal nature and mind with which all of us do battle. Despite tradition's take on these passages, I don't believe it's talking about fallen angels, but rather fallen man. The fact that these kings are kings of the earth points to the following. The first man was of the earth, made of dust. As was the man of dust, so also are those who are made of dust. And as we have borne the image of the man of dust, it is the first man, Adam, who is of the earth, made of dust, that denotes the natural and carnal essence of our being. Inasmuch as this is reflected in the phrase kings of the earth, so too the phrase inhabitants of the earth typifies the dominion of these kings in our lives. In other words, we are subject to the carnal nature and mind for as long as it is necessary for God's purpose to be fulfilled. For more understanding, let's go to the following. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Now if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law, that it is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is right, but not the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing. Now if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. So I find it to be a law that when I want to do right, evil lies close at hand. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being, but I see in my members another law waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, I myself serve the law of God with my mind, but with my flesh I serve the law of sin. As you see, I've bolded almost all of these passages, and I believe that careful consideration of what Paul says gives us a better understanding of what is meant by the kings of the earth. What is Paul discussing? The law of God, the same law that provokes both obedience and disobedience, righteousness and unrighteousness. The same law that divides the soul from the spirit and the thoughts from the intentions of the heart. In the same way that natural kings or leaders implement law to regulate society, so too the law of God works inwardly in the same way. Note that Paul, regarding our inward struggle, calls it waging war. This brings us to the following. The beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit will make war against them, overcome them, and kill them. And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. Also, it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. How many wars do we see? There is but one. Does our inward struggle manifest outwardly? Absolutely, which explains why there is so much turmoil in our world today. That's it for this study, but be sure to join me for the next. There's much left to consider.